was Comic Relief a couple of days ago, and while we didn't have a proper Doctor Who skit or a sketch or anything, that's fine because they're working hard on promoting the brand new series. On Red Nose Day, we did indeed get a trailer for the release date of the Disney Plus and BBC iPlayer and BBC rollout of Series 14.
You ready for this?
Come on. Give me a number, give me a year. It's gonna be a moment.
Yeah, I do really like the audio that they did because they like the music motif, the ho ho. Like, I really like it. I like it a lot. It works really really well for trailers. But yeah, May 11th is going to be the broadcast day. I like it a lot. May 11th for Disney Plus and for the BBC iPlayer. What does this mean? Well, we also got this this simulcast trailer. So you can't wink at us and expect us to forgive you, Shooty. So 4 p.m. in Los Angeles, 7 p.m. in New York, 7 p.m. in Toronto, 12 a.m. midnight in London, 1 a.m. in Paris, 1 a.m. in Berlin, 1 a.m. in Rome, 9 a.m. in Sydney in Australia, where Crispy Pro is going to be watching this with his breakfast cereal, presumably. And Josh Snares, they're going to be watching it as well. So yeah, we're going to be getting a debut on the BBC iPlayer first, and then it's going to be broadcasting later on in the day on BBC One. Let's get the details from the official Doctor Who website. A simultaneous global premiere date is revealed as the Doctor launches into the Whoniverse on BBC and Disney+. Doctor Who is set to make an explosive return on May 11th as the TARDIS will make its global premiere around the Whoniverse. This is going to be the day of the Eurovision Song Contest as well. For those in the UK, for the first time ever, the Doctor will land with 2 episodes premiering on BBC iPlayer at midnight before arriving on BBC One later that day, right before the Eurovision Song Contest Grand Final. At the same time, those outside of the UK can watch the Doctor and Ruby on their epic adventures as the TARDIS is set to land on Disney Plus where available. Viewers in the UK will now be able to watch whenever and wherever they choose, with the option to stream at midnight on BBC iPlayer or tune in at prime time on Saturday nights on BBC One. So, what will happen is that you can either watch episodes 1 and 2 of the series in the UK at midnight, or you can wait and watch it presumably at 7 and 8 p.m. in the UK before the Eurovision Song Contest Grand Final. I don't know what time that's broadcasting. I'm just plucking those times out of thin air here for the sake of this discussion. So both episodes will be going live at the same time, but because we're dealing with different time zones, they're going to be getting it in America at around 7 p.m, or at least in like Los Angeles at 7 p.m, and then the rest of the world will be getting it in their respective time zones to accommodate that that Friday evening time slot. There were the memes. They were numerous. They were great and creative. I loved this one in particular. The UK Doctor Who fans finding out today's news.
I don't need this. I'm on a schedule. This is completely unnecessary.
I love that so much. So yeah, Lewitt saying watching 8 p.m. in Brazil. East Coast will get it at 7 p.m. New York, 4 p.m. LA. Yeah, so there's a lot to be said here. Firstly, making it a 2-part opener in the lead up to Eurovision. Let's take that good news first, because remember, in 2007, Doctor Who had to take the week off because of Eurovision. It's why after the Lazarus experiment, we got that big epic trailer for the second half of Series 3. Then it took the week off, and then we got 42 the week after Eurovision. But now, we're not taking the week off here, we're getting 2 episodes before the Eurovision Song Contest Grand Final. And not only that, it's rumoured to be the Devil's Chord Beatles episode, featuring Abbey Road and Jinx Monsoon as the Doctor's most powerful enemy. A big musical themed episode right before the Eurovision Song Contest is a match made in heaven. That's really, really good timing, and I think that's the positives that we can take from this. Secondly, I don't think there is inherently an issue with dropping it on iPlayer first and then putting it on BBC primetime slot properly, because I don't think that will really affect the actual final tabulated numbers in terms of the viewing figures. With the 4 p.m. and 7 p.m. Los Angeles and New York time slots respectively, it's clear that what was the BBC British flagship family show that would broadcast on evenings in a primetime slot is now being prioritised for the American audience for it to drop at 4 p.m. and 7 p.m. In America at least. Which means that in a sense, Doctor Who has kind of been demoted in its home territory. It's no longer being released and prioritised as the Saturday night flagship show for the most dedicated viewers who will want to watch it live. I'm trying to compartmentalise this as like, is it bad news for hardcore fans only because it's a change? Or is it like a broader narrative about Disney getting their way with the show? But in a sense, is that even a bad thing in this particular context? Because, for example, when Disney Plus were first starting out with their MCU shows, what would happen is that WandaVision would drop at like 7 a.m. in the UK. I'd wake up at like 8 or 9 a.m. and then I'd just watch the episode of WandaVision that dropped. And I was absolutely fine with that. I didn't really see it as a big issue. But then WandaVision was the first MCU TV show on Disney Plus. There wasn't like a prerequisite or a legacy outside of the films there. So I don't know. I'm trying to not resort to apples and oranges comparisons here. I did see somebody make a good observation that they were able to watch the show on iPlayer first. They're a parent. And they're able to watch the show on iPlayer first and then determine whether or not the episode is way too scary or intense for their children, so that should they be able to watch it when it's actually properly broadcast at 7 p.m. on BBC One. I imagine there will be fans as well who will watch it on midnight on the iPlayer and then also tune into the UK broadcast at 7 p.m. I imagine you'll be getting people who will be double dipping there. But when Vortex Alliance is right, we will pay the TV license to pay for the show. The problem is that this feels like a natural end result of what happens when you're making media in the United Kingdom, a country that is quite literally too poor to make its number one financial export, which is the media and the arts and the creative sectors right now, which is an estimated £140 billion industry in the UK. But because of the cost of living crisis, because of inflation and numerous failures of government policy and economic factors, we are at a standstill at the moment in the UK and TV film industry, where we are literally too poor to make our number one export. So Disney, with the financial clout in America, are able to use that clout and that financial muscle to get what they want when it comes to the BBC's flagship sci-fi show, which, like I said, it feels like the natural end result of terrible austerity politics. And yes, Mr. TARDIS, I am going to make this about how bad the Tories are. Obviously, you must be new here. But yeah, it's a bit disappointing when it comes to like the BBC's flagship sci-fi show now having to play second fiddle to the Disney American time slot. That is disappointing. However, what I will say though is that people are saying, you think about the kids, think about the chillins, think about will a younger audience, let's say below the ages of 14, will they really care? Will this really impact them like one of the target demographics of Doctor Who? I'm not sure if it will. I think that they'll just be happy to wake up on Saturday and just be able to watch Doctor Who whenever they want on the platform and the device of their choice. And I don't know, because one thing I will say, playing devil's advocate for the BBC and also for Disney to a lesser extent, is that because they are the creators of these streaming platforms, the BBC and Disney will have way more figures and way more data than I will have, and certainly anybody watching this video or anyone in this live chat will have as well. They'll know way better than us what the viewing habits for people who watch on the BBC iPlayer are. They will know if this is actually an accessibility benefit for people who want to watch Doctor Who in their own time, rather than being stuck with linear TV. I will say, it would have been significantly worse if they dropped the full series in one go for the binge model. But honestly, I don't think that would have been anything to worry about, because even for the Disney Plus big shows, the MCU ones, the Star Wars ones, etc., they have gone for the weekly release schedule, more or less. I think WandaVision did start with like a 2-episode premiere. I might be misremembering that, but I am sure they've done that before. But having a 2-episode series premiere for 1 week, and then 1 episode for the following 6 weeks as we get through series 14, I don't know. I think this might be a case of Doctor Who fans making a mountain out of a molehill, but for legitimate reasons? I don't know. It's a bit of a complicated topic here, because ultimately we're going to watch the show anyway. We're going to be watching the show anyway. It might even open up the door for many other people to watch it. If us having to lose temporarily the ritual of watching Doctor Who all together at the same time at 7 p.m., if us losing that ritual means that there's a simulcast all across the world, or at least every country that has Disney Plus, for Doctor Who, to technically give Series 14 its biggest ever audience in the history of the show, an audience that Verity Lambert and Waris Hussein and Sidney Newman could have only dreamed about 60 years ago. If that is the trade-off for that accessibility, for that reach, for that audience size, for a show that I am ultimately a big fan and supporter of, I think I'm happy to make that trade. For me, I am unaffected because I'm watching the thing anyway. I will sometimes dip into Twitter to see what people think about the episode, but I don't know. And if I'm going to be watching it with friends, surely that makes it easier to, like, we don't have to all be here at the same time to watch it. We don't have to adapt to a linear TV schedule. If you're here for 7:30 or even earlier at 6:30 or whatever to get here and get the popcorn out and watch the episode, or we can watch it right now. I don't know. Now, Evil Dalek is right. The simulcast, the fact that the simulcast is a preferential treatment for the American territory is the big issue. This was a tweet that Crispy Pro featured in his video that he dropped a couple of hours ago on the topic from Code and Jim. Simulcasting is always going to have some time zone or another shafted. The amount of times I've waited for 2 a.m. primetime American shows, for instance. I just think having the home country of the show being the one shafted is a bit weird. And that's the bit that does seem a bit like a kick in the teeth, really. That even sounds like a bit too much of, like, violent language. Like, because, you know, we're going to watch it anyway. I don't know. Because no one's getting it first, technically. It's a simulcast around the world. Church on Ruby Road did something quite similar, though. But that was one that prioritized the UK Christmas time slot. So it can be done. But I think, it's tough. It's a complicated topic. I don't just want to side on the side of outrage just for the sake of it. But I also don't want to play devil's advocate all the time because that just makes me look like a simp for Disney. I want to try and, like, actually look at the nuance here because I'm more fascinated by this than anything. Because, like I said, I am 100% unaffected by this. I'll just have to consider, do I watch it when I wake up? Because I want to get my review out. I want to get the footage of it so I can start editing and writing and recording a review as soon as possible. You know, let's figure this out. So I've got a few weeks, a couple of months yet to still plan for that. But in terms of the average audience member, they'll probably just open up iPlayer in the afternoon or their smart TV and see the BBC iPlayers advertising Doctor Who, first 2 episodes available now, and they'll just watch it. And as somebody who's just interested in audience trends and the viewership and stuff, I'm just interested in seeing how this experiment pans out. It might be a net benefit in terms of the sheer number of people who watch Doctor Who. Russell liking replies on Instagram of fans not liking it makes me think he doesn't like it either, and it's Disney doing this. The thing about Russell T Davies on Instagram, though, is that he'll like comments saying how he's gay and has ruined Doctor Who forever, so he's super woke. He likes those type of reactionary comments, so he might just be leaning into the liking the negative reception of things. Like, it's just what he does. Russell likes every comment. He doesn't like every comment. He doesn't like the comments of people calling out him being on friendly terms with John Barrowman and Tracy Ann Oberman, and he does like the comments defending them. He also likes people referring to Ncuti Gatwa as BBC, which is completely unbecoming of a showrunner in my opinion. But anyway, that's a different kettle of fish entirely. Doctor Who was going to have to bite the bullet for a simulcast or a prioritizing a global release or international distributors eventually. So maybe they do it for Series 14. If the experiment doesn't work, rethink it for Series 15 and the Christmas special that comes out in Christmas 2024. Rethink it then. But for this, I'm willing for them to take that experiment, I think. I've seen people compare this to HBO and Sky Atlantic dropping Game of Thrones at like 2 a.m. and millions of people staying up to watch it then. But firstly, that was still like 4 or 5 years ago. So like the culture around streaming and accessibility and stuff has already changed in such a short span of time. But also Game of Thrones was a series that was for adults exclusively. You shouldn't be 12 years old and watching Game of Thrones. So having a similar distribution strategy for a family-friendly Doctor Who show just because Doctor Who is like Game of Thrones in that it is a huge, prestige, high-end TV drama, does not mean that it should have the same release strategy or the same release schedule. So yeah, it's hard to compare. It's a complicated topic. Can a person tell me how this gives Disney more money? Because people outside of the UK might subscribe to Disney Plus so that they can watch Doctor Who, and then the plan is that people hopefully will stay on Disney Plus when Doctor Who's not being broadcast so they can watch more stuff. That's the business strategy. Kids aren't watching it at midnight, they can watch it in the morning. Yeah, but that's the thing we need to consider though. For the younger demographic who, like, there's a reason outside of cost-cutting measures, because like I said, the United Kingdom is literally too poor of a country to make its #1 export right now. They're getting rid of linear broadcasting for CBBC and CBeebies as well. So maybe that's them adapting to the trends of younger audiences having everything on demand, of non-linear TV for younger audiences. Like, yeah, so maybe Doctor Who would thrive in a non-linear environment. But obviously, there is something to be said for the narrative of the BBC flagship Saturday night family show. Now, it only is it's now an evening family show for American audiences, while in the UK, the country where it's filmed and made and written, and where the license fee pays for most of its production, they're getting the 12 a.m. midnight release. But to be fair, if you want to watch it live, you can do. Obviously, you'd have to stay off of social media for the whole day leading up until then. But honestly, that could be said about almost any major show from a streaming service. Like, Doctor Who is not the first one to do this. So, I don't know. Like, It's a Sin, for example, was broadcast all of the episodes on Channel 4, and then they released them weekly. Obviously, It's a Sin and Doctor Who are not comparable shows in terms of audience size, but if you wanted to avoid It's a Sin spoilers, you know, it's the same type of thing. I don't know. I obviously sympathise with people who can't watch it immediately and need to use social media for communication, for keeping up with the news, things like that, and want to try and avoid spoilers and such. I obviously sympathise with them, but Doctor Who is not the first show where that's going to be an issue. Does the license fee pay for most of its production? I've seen people on Twitter saying it's BBC Studios who are... Okay, so... Sorry. The license fee pays for the dramas, for the news and current affairs, for the sports broadcasting, stuff like that. BBC Studios is the commercial arm of the BBC. So when you buy, for example, the Doctor Who Penguin books, or buy some of the merchandise, or buy the Blu-rays and the steelbooks and such, or the subscription to Doctor Who magazine, the commercial arm, that's what that money goes towards. The most profitable franchises for BBC Studios are, in no particular order, Doctor Who, Top Gear, and Strictly Come Dancing. Top Gear is in a bit of a weird place right now, because of what's happened recently. So Doctor Who is something that they definitely want to try and keep in terms of their commercial arm. But BBC Studios, for the past 2 or 3 years, year on year, have had, like, record-breaking profits, and Doctor Who is one of the shows that is frequently cited as one of the big reasons for those profits. So yeah, we pay the license fee for the production of Doctor Who, but BBC Studios then gives out the license to a BBC property like Doctor Who and Top Gear and Happy Valley Funko Pops, for example. So yeah, however, Disney Plus are footing some of the bill to Bad Wolf and the BBC for Doctor Who's production in exchange for having the exclusive distribution rights. HBO Max, for example, used to have the exclusive distribution rights for a time before Disney Plus got them. Netflix shared them with other streaming services before that. It's standard operating procedure for another company to pay BBC Studios some money to license the distribution of Doctor Who in other territories, but what's different about Disney Plus is that it's an exclusive distribution streaming rights for the upcoming era of the show. People will be skipping to the end of the episode when they drop it. I mean, that's something they technically can do, but they could do that for any streaming show, technically. They could do that for Mr. Bates and the Post Office if they wanted to. I believe HBO still has Doctor Who, just 2005 to 2022. Okay, so yeah, Disney Plus has the exclusive distribution rights internationally for the current Bad Wolf regime. Disney Plus also won't just pay for the production budget generally of Doctor Who, they will also give some finances and some resources to what a worldwide release would also entail, for example, because when you're in the BBC in the UK, you only really have to consider, for the most part, an English-speaking audience with some international and non-English language subtitles and sign language and audio description and stuff like that. But when you broadcast to an international audience, as Disney Plus is doing with Doctor Who, they'll also pay for the translation of the subtitles. They'll also pay for the non-English voice dubbing, for example. One second. Chat, randomly, think of any other Disney Plus show that's not Doctor Who. Mandalorian? Okay, let's go for it. One thing that Disney will foot the bill for, to an extent, because they have an obligation to do this as a worldwide distributor, is all of this stuff. All of the non-English language subtitles, and also Mandalorian in French.
Dans ce cas, je t'aiderai.
Yeah, so Disney Plus will help to foot the bill for Doctor Who to do that, which cannot be understated, is going to be a really great way for Doctor Who to reach audiences that, like I said, we only could have dreamed of 10 or 15 years ago, where audiences in France will be able to watch Doctor Who on Disney Plus with a French voice dub if they wanted to, or just English with French subtitles. And that's something that the BBC and, like I said, broadcasters like the BBC and Channel 4 in recent months and years have been told off by Ofcom for not being able to provide those services because, like I said, we are literally too poor a country to be able to do some of those things sometimes. So that's where the Disney Plus influence is very, very helpful. Obviously, Doctor Who fans are going to Doctor Who fan, and they're going to want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. But I do need to I think we need to acknowledge that, like I said, these are the direct end results of living and working in a country where we are literally too poor to be able to make the media that is our number one cultural and financial export. So Disney Plus able to foot the bill for some of that. Basically, yes, I am blaming the Tories for this situation. Yes, and you should too, if you're a good human being. This is the price that we have to pay. Sometimes we will not be able to watch Doctor Who exactly when we want to. Chat, what I'm saying here is that if you want Doctor Who to have a prioritized 7 p.m. slot and to not be a slave to Disney Plus broadcast distribution strategies, overthrow the government. Okay, that's the plan. That's the plan, folks. Okay, we're figuring. We'll get to the Mr. Titus Discord server and we'll plot it together. Like I said, it's disappointing in some respects, but I'm also just really fascinated at what this would do for the metrics, what this could do for accessibility, what this could do for the audience size. There's a lot to consider here, and I think that fans maybe are considering... fans might be a little bit short-sighted in just thinking, oh, I can't watch this at the same time as everybody else on Twitter at 7 p.m. I can watch this any other time of day. I don't know. I'm not saying that those feelings and those concerns are invalid, and I'm not saying that that's an issue. I'm not saying that those are illegitimate concerns or feelings to have. But I do think that this is a case of trade-offs. And also, this is partially the price you pay for wanting a show like Doctor Who to have worldwide appeal. I think people are overreacting a bit. I think they are a little bit. I did see somebody actually do a change.org petition to change the simulcast times of Doctor Who on Disney Plus, which I think is a little bit much. I'm not saying that those feelings and those concerns are illegitimate, but I think there's 1,001 elements to consider here. And but it does of course fall into the broader narrative of the United Kingdom being left behind culturally, even when it comes to the material and the franchises that are created in this country and the license fee predominantly pays for. But even then, the license fee that you pay for means that you can access it at midnight on the Saturday, or you can watch it both episodes before Eurovision. Get all of the gays together and watch Doctor Who in Eurovision. Or maybe not Eurovision, because I know some people are boycotting it, which is fine. That's valid. I don't live in the UK, but I'll join the revolution. Comrade Bruce, we're happy to have you. Oh, Lily, we've watched this before on stream, actually. Japanese Doctor Who.
I must say this is almost impressive.
People watching this stream right now who are around on YouTube, Doctor Who YouTube, like 10 years ago, are getting insane nostalgia right now.
I will destroy you and demonstrate the power of the Daleks!
When I wasn't there. Oh, yeah, we did like maybe a month or two ago. Didn't this animator go on to like do some official Doctor Who animations?
I am very difficult to kill. You should already know that.
God, it's so good. Oh yeah, and they give the third Doctor a kawaii, like, anime girl protagonist with a skimpy outfit, because of course they do, because it's the third Doctor in Japan. Use that Disney Plus money to make this real. True, yes. But of course, like, if you want to have a whole Whoniverse, if you want to have like a big simulcast, like, worldwide audience, and you want to like use that as a springboard for spin-offs and stuff, this actually might be the best way to do it, honestly. Because Brits are going to watch it anyway. You know, Brits are going to watch it anyway. So, like, putting UK interests first and just ignoring the rest of the world and their wants and needs is partly how we got into this mess in the first place as a country. Was that meant to be joke, Grant? No, it's meant to be just like a random, like, Japanese... It's your average Japanese woman off the streets that they found.